So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews. We'll discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, and the challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. This morning, I'm delighted to have with us Chris Aldridge, who's director at MOHUN Aldridge Sykes. So, Chris, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chris. So I am, as you say, director at MOHUN Aldrich Sykes. We are a firm of patent and trademark attorneys. So we protect inventions and brands for clients, uh, generally stop people infringing, but
Yep.
then with patents, there are tax benefits where you can reduce your corporation tax.
Oh,
We protect brands and stop people from infringing and copying brands, and then protect aesthetic elements as well using registered designs.
yeah.
We may work mainly with what's known as hard IP. So it's those three registerable types of intellectual
Yes.
property. And we help a variety of businesses, individuals, SMEs, large businesses, and have a lot of interaction overseas as well. So we have incoming work from foreign countries.
Wow. Must must be fascinating. You must see some really interesting things coming across your desk.
Absolutely. You see, there's things from like garment hangers to composite materials, optical fibers, toilet seats. It is a real mix. You get to know a lot of things about a lot of different types of technology.
Yes, brilliant. And I often ask people, at what point should someone come and see you? Because I'm guessing anything from, I would imagine you get anything from someone having a bright idea to, we've sold 100,000 units. We just
Yep.
realised we don't have a pay. What point would a conversation with you be most valuable to somebody in general?
Um, as early as possible.
Yeah,
There are reasons for that. It's not just us trying to muscle in early doors. So with brands, you can launch a brand and you can protect the trademark later on. And the reason you want to protect it is because the cost of bringing a passing off action is massive. If you don't have a registered trademark,
yeah,
then you have to go down the line of passing off and prove that someone is misrepresenting their goods as yours and it's causing you harm. And you've got a reputation that there's a huge number of witness statements and evidence that you need for that.
yeah,
So if you register a trademark, it's as simple as here's our trademark registration, you infringe it, job done.
yeah,
So for the trademarks, there's no need to get in there early doors, although the longer you wait, the more risk that someone will copy your brand.
yeah,
The most important thing is with new inventions, because with
yes.
patent protection, if you disclose the invention publicly before you have filed a patent application, your patent application is invalid.
Oh,
There,
right.
there are two main hurdles to getting a patent granted. It needs to be new, which means that your invention is not in the public domain before you file the application.
Wow.
And that one's quite straightforward. It either
Yeah,
has been disclosed or it hasn't, or someone
right.
else has done, or they haven't anywhere in the world. The other step is your invention needs to be inventive. It needs to have an inventive step. This is more complicated. It needs to not be an obvious or known combination of technologies. So if
Yeah,
you've got a product with features A, B, and C, someone's got A and B, and someone else has got A and C, is it obvious to mesh those together?
yeah,
That's where the arguments come in. If one's in
yes,
a fighter and one's in a car, probably not obvious.
yes.
But the sooner that you speak to, well, to me or to a patent attorney,
Yep,
the better chance of getting a patent granted.
yeah,
Um, it might well be that the invention isn't ready to file a patent application, but at least you're engaging in that conversation and going down the right lines.
yeah,
So when you have the core concept, don't need to have a working product, but you have to have a good idea of how it will work
yeah,
and then kind of tinker with that rather than
yes,
redevelop it.
yes.
Similarly, on registered designs, these protect the aesthetics of a product. Um, there is a grace period in the UK and US and some other countries, but again, the sooner that you make contact and consider it, the
Yeah.
better. Definitely. So
Brilliant.
early course for any new project.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because it's like I'm sure you can guide people into various things that will help
Absolutely.
them make things more easily, like many things. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. So Chris, if we sort of look backwards to start with, and if you be kind of tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you would be great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I guess these go all the way back to university where I studied physics in Leeds.
Right.
Uh, all patent attorneys have to have a science degree of some
Oh,
sort.
right.
The reason for that is that for the profession, it takes scientists and trains them very much in this niche area of law. So there's no family law, no conveyancing, that sort
Got
of thing.
you.
It is purely intellectual property.
Yep.
And it's mostly on the job training with exams as well. They don't take lawyers and try and teach them
Yeah.
science because it's much more difficult to understand an invention if you
Absolutely.
if you haven't got the science background.
Yes.
So yeah, I did my degree at Leeds. Then I moved down to London for 10 years. And it was up in Leeds as I was finishing my final year that I became aware of this little profession. And it is little. I think there's about 2,500 chartered patent attorneys in the UK.
Right.
So, and there's about 15,000 European patent attorneys across Europe.
Yep.
So it is a very small niche area. I started out a long time ago now, 22 odd years ago. Started with a small firm, spent 5 years there, moved to another firm, and long story short, I've ended up back in Leeds with my business partner Steve Mohan at Mohun Aldridge Sykes. I've been with Steve for about 10 years now.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, growing up, was this what you saw for yourself growing up, or did you have another?
No one really dreams of this. It's one of these things where you don't normally find out about it unless you've got a family member or friend that does it.
Yes.
You really know about the patent profession. You kind of stumble across it.
Yes.
Most people don't realize they need a patent attorney until they find out they actually need one. So it's not the most well-known profession. It's something most people fall into. When you've got the science background and you don't want to go into academia or banking, then this it mashes together the science knowledge, and you can apply that with a more interesting area of law.
Yes.
So yeah, there aren't many people that grow up thinking one day I'll be a patent attorney.
I guess not. And so as you've grown the business together, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome over time?
Yeah, like any business, is balancing capacity and cost, making sure you've got the people to do the work, but have the money to be able to get the staff. And it's all peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
And of course, these days, getting your name out there so that people know of you for when they need you. Social media is great. It can be a bit of a bind at times.
Yes.
But one of the things that I was told very early on from a wonderful colleague and good friend is people buy from people.
Yeah.
So you do need to get out there personally. It's all great having your social media and your LinkedIn profile up there, but if you don't go and speak to people, you might as well not bother. It is a very personal thing, especially when people are trusting you with their inventions and to some extent their business, their money.
Absolutely. I think I do a certain amount of training and coaching in sales in general, and almost every sales model that you will look at starts with trust or all those sorts of things. If we don't have a level of trust, then the deal's never going to be done.
Definitely.
And so
Definitely. And that's kind of important in what we do. If a client wants to file, say, in the US or China, Australia, wherever it might be, we need a local attorney in these countries. So one of the big things we do is every year there's a big conference. There's about 14,000 people attend. And it's going to meet all of the overseas attorneys that we work with.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we have a chat with them, sometimes have a beer with them, and just make sure that we do get on with them and they are nice, competent people.
Yes.
But again, it's about getting out there, wherever that might be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and looking back over the growth of your business, what are some of the biggest things you've learned about growing a business successfully?
One of the things is making sure that you've got the right staff. Micromanaging is never going to work, as you'll know yourself, and the businesses will do. If you don't trust someone to get on with the job, you probably shouldn't be employing them in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a case of making sure you trust these people and let them get on with what they're doing. Um, if there's a problem, obviously it needs addressing, but yeah, trust is key.
100%. And it's interesting. We again, we do quite a lot of work on recruitment and building teams, and a simple principle that we have, which most recruitment is basically goes, from our perspective, goes like this: we recruit on experience, but sack on attitude. It and we've just turned that on its head and said, look, let's start with attitude. I appreciate there might be a base level of experience or qualification, especially in your industry or profession, but above a base level, let's find the people that align culturally, values wise, are going to be people that will fit in with our team rather
But
than the most experienced and qualified. And it isn't. It doesn't have to happen, but often the most experienced people want to do it their way because that's the way they've always learned. Whereas most organisations want people to come in and learn to do it our way.
yeah,
And that's an attitude, Matt. So I completely agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest influence on you?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one. I used to play a quite high level of sport in my youth, and there were a couple of coaches there that again just gave you the confidence to go out and do what you needed to do.
Brilliant.
They would adapt to how you wanted to do things, but there was that core way of this is our plan. Uh,
Yes.
and I think accommodating different attitudes and different ways of working is important. Certainly with clients, if a client wants to work in a particular way, yeah, you need to adapt.
Yes.
If someone's dyslexic and they say, "I need to speak to you rather than read long emails," you've got to pick up the phone. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
again, it's that contact, it's the touch points again.
Yeah.
Um,
I I think I'm pretty much sure almost every team coach I've met. I mean, obviously, an individual coach will mold around the individual, but even in a team environment, most of the successful coaches I've met and spoken to will say you coach the individual, not just a team. So you need
yeah,
to know what drives a particular individual. It might be what the media says in a positive or negative way. It might be not what the media says in a positive or negative way. It could be the opposition, and it's so important that we look at an individual as a coach and work with that person as well as, but if it even well as the team as a whole.
definitely. Yeah, having the game plan is great, but it's making sure everyone can take those steps they need to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you find I love to collect quotes and sayings about success of business in general? And do you have any favorite quotes that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
That people buy from people is
Yep,
key. It kind of
brilliant.
underpins what we try and do. Um, but then another one that my kids are certainly focusing on now is hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
Oh,
It's
nice. I like that. I've
yeah,
I've heard the first part before, I think, but the second part I love. Yeah, if talent
yeah,
doesn't work hard.
absolutely. And I mean, do come across some very talented people, but they don't keep on top of their skills. Um, Falls away.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, in fact, I think my eldest has that in his classroom at the moment.
brilliant.
Um, where it came from, I'm not sure. I think it was a basketball coach in the States. But
Yeah, I can't think of his name. I think I know who you mean. He's very well known as being a very
mm,
successful coach in general. He's followed by a lot of people.
yeah,
And it's so true, isn't it? Because it's like, talent will get you so far, but if you're not working hard alongside it, then you'll ultimately be found out.
that's it.
Um,
Definitely. There's
and
always CPD going on. There's always bits and pieces to do.
absolutely, there's always new things to learn. I always recall. It was Tony Benn, Lord Benn, the Labour peer,
Mm.
and apparently when he retired from the House of Lords, he or even when he was in there, he was doing. He used to speak at universities quite regularly. They'd invite him and come and speak, and apparently he always started his speech saying that we all wake up in the morning knowing less than we did the day before. And of course all the lecturers and stuff are running around going, you can't say that, we're an educate, he just meant there is so much more information in the world being generated every day that our proportion of it is actually decreasing over time, however much we learn. So just to try and keep up, we've got to work really hard and learn really hard.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely. If you look on YouTube, there's more and more every day.
It's just exponential. It's absolutely nuts. Um, and do you have any favorite books or podcasts, past podcasts on business or success that you could share or share
Actually,
with?
I've got several books on the go at the moment.
Brilliant,
Definitely one of them, Eat That Frog. Um,
Brian
so just
Tracy. Brilliant,
getting up and getting things done. Um, so it's yeah, I think over the years I've picked up a few. The James Sinclair podcast has been useful at times.
yep. No, James. Yeah, brilliant.
But yeah, but no, I think it's one of these things where you oftentimes you don't know where you've picked stuff up from, but you have done.
I think lots of people, some people follow individuals a lot, and then others just cherry pick.
Yeah,
And as you say, because we're cherry picking, we don't really know. And I think that's
yeah.
absolutely right for the individual, isn't it? Is
Mm,
there's certain things that just make sense to us, and therefore we lock them in.
yeah,
Um, uh,
absolutely. So yeah.
and speaking of learning, Chris, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Oh gosh, what have I learned about myself? That's a good question. Uh, I guess to go out and do stuff, and that I can. If you
Brilliant.
put yourself out your comfort zone, you can go and excel and do things well. Um, Certainly when you're going to conferences and meetings and you're getting a bit nervous about networking, you just got to throw yourself into it. Everyone's in the same position. Everyone is there
Brilliant.
to speak and be open. So yeah, you've just got to give it a go.
Brilliant.
It's very rare that you genuinely fail at something. As long as you have a go, and that's another thing. Doing something is always better than doing nothing.
Great.
You've got to have a crack at things, see how it goes. So yeah, I think yeah, I'm more adaptable than I originally thought. I guess.
Brilliant.
Um,
I
hmm,
love that. I think I love that. In fact, I remember our founder, Brad Chiggers, told me a long time ago that he believed he was successful as he is, and he's a very successful guy because he's made more mistakes than anybody else he knows. Not despite it, but because it was the willingness to try and be open to failure. I think
yeah,
is the key thing. Is as you've described, it's okay as long as we learn from things. Then it's actually a success.
definitely, absolutely. It's the same with sports and everything else. If you make a mistake, you think to yourself, "Well, I'll not do that again."
Absolutely.
Try again.
Absolutely. I mean, every move, they'll I'll show my age by saying the old Cruyff turn was Johan Cruyff. I'm sure he must have failed a few times and fallen over trying to
Absolutely.
make that happen. And and basketball moves and all sorts. Somebody tried them first, didn't they? And to get there, they probably failed. I like to ski a lot myself, and there's all the I wouldn't do anything in a ski park, escape in a park, but all the jumps and the tricks that they do when you see the videos of how often they failed and how many they've injured themselves,
That's it. Definitely.
it's
Definitely.
it's being willing to take the injuries, I think, isn't it? That's
That's it. Yeah. I suspect the Fosbury flop in high jump didn't work out too well at the start.
that must have been nuts. It's just even trying to think how to make that happen is almost impossible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, really, that's really great. I've forgotten that. And interesting enough to talk about athletics. There's a really interesting story about Roger Bannister, who was the first man to get achieve the 4 minute mile, which at that point was considered humanly impossible to actually achieve that. And having broken the 4 minute mile, I think it's something like 38 people achieved that within a year.
Amazing.
It was a huge,
Yeah.
very significantly, given it was considered to be impossible. And so it just proved that because somebody else had done it, now I
Yeah.
believed I could.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. So, and I think that's another thing. If you try things and do things differently, it often pays off.
Yeah,
Um, so just going through the motions and doing things as they've done before, you get stuck in a rut. So you've got to try things and have a go.
absolutely. We often say, the success is outside of our comfort zone. It's taking ourselves out of where we are. And what I find interesting, Chris, is because I talk to people about comfort zones, is a lot of people I meet are actually their comfort zone is actually quite uncomfortable. Business
Yeah,
people actually business isn't that great, but I'm just going to keep doing what I've done. And it's like,
yeah,
well, if we just get you out of there and just do things differently, as you rightly say, maybe we'll find a different way forward.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
That's a good question. I mean, we're always looking to grow, as most companies are. Um, Obviously, there's the thought of succession in the future,
Yes.
but that's probably a 15, 20 years off. Got to plan early,
Yeah.
uh, and make those changes. As with any business, again, trying to get more customers, more people engaged, help more people, um, and certainly on the tax breaks, I think that is helping people.
Yeah.
Uh, we're getting them more involved. Um, this is public knowledge, so I'm not telling you anything you can't see online, but we do save one client £9 million a year in corporation tax
Wow.
through having a patent. So there's benefits to
Wow.
doing, yeah, getting yourself out there. So the challenges are, as always, keeping the clients coming, making sure that everyone's happy. Um, but yeah, it's a challenge that is also a fun one.
Yes.
Mm.
And I suppose I'd be interested to know your thoughts. I forgive it, but I mean, how well just during our conversation. So one of the things I didn't realize we sold. I sold my first business. Well, four of us sold a business 20, 30 years ago, and we were a software and consultancy business. And we didn't realize at the time as we went through the due diligence process
Mm.
before the sale, and we didn't realize that we were paying some contractors to do some software work, and we didn't without them signing over the IP at
Yeah,
that point. So we everything was done
yeah,
amicably, and we made that happen as part of due diligence pre-sale. So the sale went through very well.
yeah,
Um, but it was quite I was quite shocked that if you're paying someone to do some work, that you don't own the IP on that work.
absolutely, yeah,
It,
definitely. All down to the T's and C's with so
yes,
many other things. And employment contracts should be reviewed as well.
yes,
Again, even if an employee is creating something, if it's not their job to invent, or is not likely that an invention will come out, don't necessarily own the rights to that invention from the
right,
employee. So if a salesperson comes up with a solution to a problem, you need to be sure that you do actually own that and that they don't, if they've done it in their spare time,
yeah,
particularly.
interesting.
There's a lot to it. Who owns what rights, how to assign them, how to license them, distribution agreements. There's a lot more to it than one originally thinks.
Yes. And how much do you think AI will become a challenge moving forward for you guys, or for the people that you work with potentially, I guess?
It's a really good question. AI is certainly coming on. It's getting very good at doing first drafts for certain things,
Great, yeah.
but there is a risk of training people more in the use of AI than understanding what they're doing. So there is
Yes,
still a need for people to learn the trade without
absolutely.
using AI. Great if clients are happy to get involved with AI and use it for a first draft. We can save a bit of time, a bit of
Yeah,
money, um, but it's never the finished product.
no, get that.
Will AI be able to draft patents? I'm not sure. I mean, currently with AI, that's taking what's out there and known and kind of merging it all together to come up with something. And the thing with patents is you're looking for what's not known, what's new and not in the public domain.
Yes,
There's also risks with this in that they are open systems.
yeah,
So if you're uploading details of your invention, that's now available to everyone else that's using the same AI system. So
interesting,
yeah, there's a risk of invalidating any patent protection
interesting.
by fiddling around with AI.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And I read a quote, and I will misquote it, but it was interesting because somebody said just of professions in general, it said AI won't kill, damage a profession. It's but it's the people. So AI won't take over a profession, but it will be the people that master AI that will probably take over that profession, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense. So
Yeah,
it's the use
definitely.
of it.
It's a useful tool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we find it quite
Yeah,
helpful what we do. But it's
yeah,
asking it the right question. I mean, it's still true of anything really. It's still asking it the right
yeah,
questions.
definitely. Computers are great, and they do definitely beat pen and paper,
Yeah,
only if you use them correctly.
absolutely. It's still. I mean, I say as a software man, it's still crap in, crap out. It's
Yeah,
still the same thing.
that's it. Definitely, definitely. So yeah,
Brilliant. And Chris, I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that's thinking of going to business right now.
I would always say it's worth doing. Being
Yep.
your own boss, running your own business, I think it's absolutely great. It is not as easy as it might look, might feel, might sound. There are
Yes.
always challenges, um, financial challenges, finding the clients, finding the staff, but ultimately it is rewarding.
Yeah.
I mean, some people do want to turn up, they want to do the job, they want to go home, take the salary, not worry about
Yeah.
that. And I understand that, and I think that's a comfortable life. But if you're not happy being comfortable and you want to push yourself, I would definitely say it's worth a go.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
And and just looking back yourself, is there anything, if you look back at your business, is there anything significantly you do differently, do you think? If you started again, sorry, if that makes sense.
That's a good question. I'm not sure there are necessarily any bits and pieces that stand out. As we said earlier, you're learning all the time.
Yeah.
And even if you started again, you'd probably find other things that you could have done, could have changed. So you'd end up in a circle, just going back and forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There is a value in learning through those experiences. There's also value in learning from other people's experiences, but it's that combination of two things. If it was just one or the other, if it was just learning from our own experiences, then growth typically is quite slow because I'm making it. But if I just learn from other people, I don't inherently understand what it's like to fail
yeah,
and having to change, I think. So
yeah,
a combination of both is quite valuable in many ways. Um,
certainly.
and a lot of people I meet, and including myself, is sort of, well, if I like, I'm where I am right now from a combination of all the decisions I made and actions I've taken. So if here
That's
is
it.
good, then I wouldn't want to change anything significant because
This is it,
it might be
definitely.
somewhere else.
Yeah, and as long as you make the best decision you can with the information available, that's all you can do.
It's all you
Uh,
can do. I do remember my first business. We were very rapid growth for a very long period, and it was quite challenging from a time perspective. But I remember,
that sounds lovely, Chris. That's what everyone dreams of.
yeah.
But you're about to tell
No,
us.
you have to know a bit. So you have to be a bit. I think you have to understand business and probably own a business to know that rapid growth is as challenging as no growth, but just in a different way. If that makes sense, it's like
Yeah,
you get people. Oh, you
absolutely.
must be happy. You must have made a fortune. It's like, well, financially it was okay, but in my case, I was doing 100-hour weeks for 3 years, and I ended up in a heap.
That's
Um,
it. Yeah, careful what you wish for.
Exactly right. But I remember in the midst of all that, that I had to, it was exactly what you just said. I had to make, it was impossible to make decisions with absolute knowledge. If we waited till
Mm.
we knew everything, it was too late. That was the reality.
Yeah,
So I had to make quite significant decisions. And then what I found was to back myself to make it the right decision by my own actions, if that makes sense.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
like,
absolutely. So yeah,
and
yeah,
I think that's part of that thing, isn't it? I can't make a perfect decision because it's too late, so I've just got to do it, and then I'm going to do it everything I can, and
yeah.
still might fail, but at least we've tried, and
That's
that's
it.
really
Definitely. Yeah,
key.
yeah. Would you do it all the same way again?
I always say yes because I like the fact that I'm here, but it's a really good question. I thank you for asking that. Oh no, I asked the question, so
Put
you.
you on the spot.
Uh, but no, I mean, speaking plainly, I did have a breakdown at that point. The 100-hour weeks, and would
Mm.
I do that again? And I didn't sit rocking in the car in a dark room for too long, but it was that bad. Would I do that again? I guess I learned a lot about myself, and I'm proud of what I've achieved through that and since then. So I think the answer is still yes. But in all honesty, if I put myself in the position at that point, I can almost do that physically right now. I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to be there again. In fact, I promised myself I never would.
yeah.
And so the learning is I never will. So I guess doing it then when perhaps I was a lot younger and I was able to withstand it physically and mentally
Mm.
probably better than now. So thank you. It's a really good question. And I just think, we learn from so many different things that
Yeah,
happen to us.
yeah.
Um, yeah, good question. You should be doing this. Um, Finally, Chris, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Have a go at everything.
Brilliant.
See what you like.
Love it.
Do more of that, and
Yep.
do less of the stuff you don't enjoy. If you need to do it and you don't enjoy it, find someone that can do it for you. Um,
Perfect. That
yeah,
that's you're probably aware. That's also you mentioned eat that frog. So Brian Tracy, also one of the things that Brian is I remember very clearly and consistently is one thing he said was that the most successful organizations are those where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at,
Yeah,
and get
absolutely.
somebody else to do the rest.
Yep.
So you absolutely couldn't agree more. But it was interesting. A colleague of mine did a presentation a little while ago, and she did a wonderful thing. It was, I'm very visual, so it really helped me. Forgive me, it's not very difficult, but she drew a line, and she said, "Imagine above the line is your strength or strengths, and below the line are your weaknesses." And she said, people talk about, trying to eliminate your weaknesses and work on them and get better. And she said, well, if you think about it, if you improve a weakness, you're probably the best you'll be is average.
Yeah,
Whereas if you improve a strength, you could become world class.
very
And
true.
it really hit me that that's the reason, isn't it? Would you rather be world class at one or two clear things and
Yep.
accept that I'm not very good at stuff that I don't really like anyway? And that did it for me. So I'm completely in with that. It's just do the stuff you
It's
love.
very true. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I would absolutely say that I'm world class at IP law and getting
Brilliant.
patents granted and trademarks. Am I good on copyright? I understand it. I know people that can work on the soft IP on the copyright stuff, and I certainly wouldn't touch conveyancing or family law. But
No,
I know my area. I'm very good at it. Um,
brilliant.
so yeah, it's knowing that.
Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. And on that note, I really want to thank you for your time, Chris. It's been really fascinating talking to you this morning. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or your business, what's the best way of doing that?
Obviously on social media, LinkedIn, website, mohan-ip.co.uk. Search for Chris Aldridge. You'll probably find the Radio 2 newsreader first, but I'll be on there as well. So yeah, or Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys if you're looking for something more general.
Brilliant. Thank you. Um, so look, Chris, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see what's going on in your world then. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Chris. That's grand.
Thanks.